Attention anyone who has had enough of moistened android Marco Rubio's spinelessness and slavishness to Donald Trump. You're going to enjoy this. CNN just destroyed Marco Rubio over his hypocrisy. Welcome to Occupy Democrats. I'm David Reddish. Poor little Marco is having a bad day. In fact, he seems to be having a bad life of late. As a reminder, here's what he said about Donald Trump back before, Trump offered him a job.
If he builds the wall the way he built Trump Towers, he'll be using illegal immigrant labor to do it. The second...
So cute. Such a cute soundbite. But here's the guy that buys a house for $179,000. He sells it to a lobbyist who's probably here for $380,000, and then legislation is passed. You tell me about this guy. This is what we're going to have as president?
Here's the guy that inherited $200 million. If he hadn't inherited $200 million, you know where Donald Trump would be right now? Selling watches in Manhattan.
I have to say, he lied this time. He lied. 100%. 100%.
You lied about the Polish workers.
Yeah.
You lied to the students of Trump University.
38 years ago.
Oh, he lied 38 years ago. All right, I guess there's a statute of limitation on lies.
I love how that woman screams so loud every time Marco says something. I half expected her to throw her bra at him. Would have made for a better debate. It also makes me wonder if he paid her. Given the level of corruption CNN just unloaded on the man, it wouldn't surprise me. Stay with us. So what happened to the little Marco that saw Donald Trump as a threat to democracy, the American economy, the rule of law, and, humanity in general? Amazing what a paycheck will do for some people. There's a clinical name for people like that, and this is a scientific term, whores. Not to be confused with sex workers, which is a whole other idea. Whores compromise anything. Any belief, any principle, any loyalty in the name of money and power. Is this sounding familiar to you yet? The folks over at CNN have apparently had enough of Rubio's whoring, and who can blame them after the past few weeks? Already this week, the Trump administration has sparked yet another crisis, this time over the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a legal U.S. resident wrongly deported to a gulag in El Salvador. In case you missed it, this was the scene in the Oval Office yesterday. Notice how Rubio sits there looking like a rotten head of lettuce the whole time.
That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs. If they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
Is it just me, or does Rubio look like he soiled himself there? Granted, Pam Bondi could have that effect on just about anyone, but Rubio knows that as Secretary of State, this will ultimately be a mess that he has to clean up. And yet he says nothing. That's particularly galling considering Rubio's personal history. In case you're unfamiliar, Marco Rubio loves to tout that he's descended from Cuban immigrants. But what Rubio leaves out, they weren't exactly here legally. Take a look.
Striking. Yeah, no. they have not. They've said, as you pointed out, that it was a mistake. It was striking to me to see Marco Rubio in the Oval Office today defending all of this because this is a flashback from when he had written a book about his family and there was a biography written about him. Rubio's grandfather was ordered deported when he came to this country and ultimately actually was not deported. He was in the country illegally, was not deported, and was retroactively given some form of asylum, which all that is to say, he took advantage of a process that existed for him, just like many of these immigrants do. Maybe they are in the country illegally, but they go to a judge and they make their case, and that's a process. It was a process that worked for Marco Rubio's grandfather. It was a process that worked for him, and he's sitting there in the Oval Office now saying that process should not be available to everybody else.
Yeah, so what about that, Marco? Would it not bother you if your grandfather, who did not have legal status like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, got deported to a gulag? Do you think you would even exist today? I know it's tempting to say good riddance in that regard, but the fact of the matter is the deportation of Mr. Garcia is a disgusting miscarriage of justice and violation of basic human rights and due process in this country. Maybe a court would ultimately deport him too, but we will never know since the administration of Trump and Rubio doesn't have the decency to charge the man with a crime. And meanwhile, as Trump continues to burn down our institutions and our democracy, everything from the courts to the economy, Rubio just sits there, doing nothing. except maybe soiling himself. Look, I'm sure Rubio is probably fuming in private over this mess. I'm sure, in private, he probably sympathizes with Garcia and is appalled by Trump's ignoring a unanimous Supreme Court decision that ordered the administration to facilitate Garcia's return. But you know what? It doesn't matter what Rubio feels or does in private. Apologists might say he isn't so bad because what he feels is really who he is. But the reality is, actions matter more than Marco's feelings. Complacency matters. Towing the line of lies and injustice matters. And Marco Rubio might think that working within the administration will give him a political future, but he's wrong. He would have had a bright career had he come out against Trump, had he allied with Democrats, and had he called out this miscarriage of justice for what it is. But Marco has just shown us who he really is. A hypocrite, a sycophant, and a whore. Note to Mr. Rubio, your grandfather is spinning in his grave. I hope you're happy. This is Occupy Democrats.